Hello and welcome to another episode of Cards Unbarred. My name's Ryan, and in this video, I'm going to teach you the 2 to 4 player card game, Eternal Decks, designed by Hirokin. One thing to keep in mind, all of the components you will see in this video are from a pre-production copy, so the final version may look a little different than what you see here. Be sure to check the Kickstarter page or the Board Game Geek page for more information. In this video, we're going to be going over the main how to play as well as Stage A. So any components that are not used for Stage A will be returned back to the box. If you want to see the rules for Stage B, C, D, E, or F, please see those videos. To set up for Stage A, the first thing you'll want to do is create the 9 Eternal decks. To do that, you'll want to locate the 9 Eternals, A1 to A3, B1 to B3, and C1 to C3. So as you can see on the screen now, the A1 is the Phoenix. You'll see all this information in the top right-hand corner of the Eternal card. And you will also want to grab the 8 Eternal cards for their Eternal deck. These cards will have the matching icons of that Eternal on the back of the card. So take the 8 cards from the Phoenix deck, shuffle them together, and place them in the top row of the field on the 5th space from the left. Then place the Phoenix Eternal face down on top of those 8 cards. You'll follow those steps with the A2 Mermaid and the A3 King. Complete those same steps for the B and C Eternals. It will look something like this once it is all completed. Next, place the 6 stars in the depicted area across the board. Then place the 8 jewels in the jewel area. Next, place the 3 field cards in the field card area. Place the additional camp field card in the top row of the 4th lap bonus area. Moving to the bottom of the board, we're going to set up the river bonus area by first placing a game over card there. Then take 3 of the river rare cards and place them on top of the game over card, splaying them a little bit so it fills up the river bonus area. Next, give each player a player aid card and place the ability aid cards nearby. And place the 3 hearts in the middle row of the 4th lap bonus area. Moving to player setup, each player will pick one of the 4 starting colors. Then they will take the 5 starting cards that match that player color, as well as the 2 communication discs of that color. From the 5 starting cards, each player will shuffle those 5 cards and draw 3 of them, leaving 2 of them face down on the table in front of them, creating what is known as their player deck. The 3 cards that are in the player's hands should be kept secret from all other players. The last thing you need to do is select a starting player. This can be determined randomly, or players can use their communication discs. However, let's get into the gameplay to be able to explain that in further detail. In Stage A, you need to gain 4 of the 6 stars to win. However, players can lose the game if on a player's turn they cannot perform one of the 3 actions, or you need to draw one of the river rare cards and there are none left to draw, and you instead draw the game over card. Now that we know how to win and lose, let's talk about what to do on your turn. When it's your turn, you must take one of the following 3 actions. The first action is play a card. When you play a card, it will come from one of the 3 cards that's in your hand, and you can either play it to one of the 3 rows on the field, into the river, or use an ability card. At the beginning of the game, we don't have any ability cards, so I'll go over those a little bit later. But right now, we could play a card to the field or the river. So looking at my hand, I have a 1, 3, and 4. And since I'm the green color, I would be playing one of the green cards. When playing a card into the field, there are common placement rules as well as field card rules that you must adhere to. The common rules apply to all 3 rows for the entire stage. These are cards of the same color may not be adjacent to each other. The same number cannot be next to each other. Additionally, there are field card rules that apply to the specific row that that field card is in. So the top row has mountain, which is ascending numbers. Again, following the common placement rules, we can't have a green card here or a 1, but something like this blue 2 would be allowed because it's ascending from the previous one and it's a different color and different number. The middle row is cave, which just means descending numbers, and the camp, that one doesn't have any additional restrictions. Only the common restrictions of same number, same color next to each other apply. So that's playing into the field. You can also play into the river on your turn. When you play into the river, there are no placement rules. It does not matter what card you can play anything you want. There's technically no adjacency down in this row. You'll see there are arrows in between these cards, because when you place in the field, you also have to make sure you place leftmost, working your way to the right. So you can't just place another card over here, skipping another one. They have to be next to each other. But down in the river, it doesn't actually matter. Just play cards down into the river, that's fine. Let's say I decide to place my 1 into the mountain. That's my turn, I am done. I played a single card into the field. It's now the next player's turn, and we just go in clockwise order. So from the start of the game, you pick a starting player, and then it's clockwise the rest of the game. So once I'm done, I will draw back up to 3 cards. I currently have 2 in my hand, so I would only draw 1 card from my player deck back into my hand. If at any point I had 3 or more cards already in my hand, I wouldn't draw anymore, but I also wouldn't discard down. If your player deck is ever empty and you need to draw, you simply just don't draw. Now, whenever you play cards, and to play the last card in the row is by playing it directly to the left of the Eternals in that row. So in this case, the blue player has completed the top row. Whenever you do that, before drawing back up and ending your turn, that player gets to revive one of the 3 Eternals in that row. To revive an Eternal, you simply pick any one of the Eternals that's still left in that row to revive. So let's say the blue player decides to pick the Mermaid. What you'll do is you'll take the entire 9-card stack of those Eternals. You'll take the Eternal itself, flip it over to its revived side, which is the colorful side, and you'll place it up in the revival area. You'll always put it in the leftmost empty space of the revival area. In this case, it's the first Eternal, so it's going to go in the left area. They will then take those 8 Mermaid cards, which were already shuffled during setup. So remember, you don't need to reshuffle it now since you already did it before. And you will take those 8 cards and place it under any cards that are currently in your player deck. If you look in the bottom left-hand corner, it's going to show you the 8 cards that come in the Mermaid's deck. Next, the one thing we want to focus on is the curse of the Eternal that is now activated. When you revive an Eternal, you activate the curse on that Eternal. In the bottom right-hand corner, it shows you what that curse is. In this case, with the Mermaid, it's telling you whenever you play a card to the field, you cannot play a 4. And this applies to all players, not just the blue player who revived the Mermaid Eternal, all players on the board. You can no longer play 4s to the field. So the next thing you'll need to do is clear off all of the cards that were played into that row. So all of these cards will go into the discard area, which is in the bottom right-hand corner, and everything in the discard area is removed from the game. Next, we need to slide over any Eternals on this row if a farther back Eternal was picked. So because we picked the Mermaid, there's a gap here, so the Phoenix needs to be picked up, and we need to slide it over, so now these Eternals are touching each other. Now, the other thing you can do on your turn is play ability cards. So if you have an ability card in your hand, depending on the type of ability card will determine where it goes. In stage A, all of the A Eternals will go up to this stage card area. And that's actually how you score one of the 4 points you need in the game. But the other Eternals, when you play their ability cards, so for example, if we grabbed the Skeleton, this one will get played to the discard area. You'll trigger whatever the ability is, but it goes straight to the discard. So as we mentioned, there are curses that become active for these Eternals when you're playing into the field. Well, the way to remove these curses is by generating one of these 8 jewels and giving it to that Eternal. So if it was the blue player's turn and they had these 3 cards, a 1, 2, and 3 of blue, they would be able to do any 3 cards or 3 of the same color, or this 1/9 since they have the 1 here. Another thing to mention when generating a jewel, there must be a revived Eternal that does not have a jewel to place on. Additionally, ability cards can be used when generating jewels, but only for the any 2 cards or any 3 cards. When you generate a jewel, you'll use all of the cards, anywhere from 1 to 3, and place them in the river. So maybe they decide to do 3 of the same color. They will then take the jewel associated with the one they did and place it on any one of the revived Eternals that's available. In this case, there's only 3 to pick from, so they would do one of those. You never have to go left to right. You can pick whichever one you want. So maybe they want to cover up the skeleton because the 2s and 8s are bad for everybody, more so than the other ones. The other thing to keep in mind is when you play these cards or use these cards to generate a jewel, they're going into the river, which means you do not have to worry about curses that are on there when generating the jewel. So I used a 2 in this recipe, which is fine because it's going into the river, not into the field. And whenever you generate the jewel for the 159 combo, not only will you get a jewel, but you'll also get a star, which again is one of the 4 points you need to win the game. So you'd put the star over there, and you would cover up one of the Eternals. And once you get a section of the 1st to 3rd or 4th to 6th Eternal, you'll score another point that way. And while we're here, we may as well just go over the other 2 points. This one up here, when you complete all 9 Eternals, so just revive them, you do not have to have jewels on them, which again, there are only 8, so it wouldn't be possible. But just placing the 9th Eternal will get you this point. And the bottom point down here is completing that row 4 times. Every row in the field has a 4th lap bonus. And the 4th lap bonus for this middle row is to gain all spent hearts back. In the top row, you're going to get this camp card. When you gain this, you'll place it in one of the other 2 rows immediately. The second you get this bonus, you must place it. And wherever the cards are, so let's just say we've got that and this, and they place the camp here. For the rest of the row, this becomes camp as far as field card placement rules go. You ignore the cave and you start working on as camp. Once you gain the 4th lap bonus from a row, you can no longer play cards into that row. So you'd flip the field card face down to show that, and all cards that were played in this row would stay. So all the cards that are in this row would just stay. You do not discard them when you get the 4th lap bonus. So this is a huge visual reminder that you can no longer play cards in this top row. Next, let's go over the rare cards. So the way you gain access to the rare cards down in the river bonus is by filling up the river. As you can see, there are 5 spaces to place cards into. Whenever there are 5 or more cards in the river, the player who's placed those last cards will clear the river and gain one of those river rare cards. So for example, if it was the green player's turn and they had these 2 5 cards, they would play them down to the river, and then they would be able to clear the field. Since there are 5 or more cards there, they go to the discard area, and that player gains a river rare card directly into their hand. It doesn't go to their player deck, it goes into their hand immediately. When playing a rare card, you can ignore the common placement and field card restrictions. So this rare card can just go there, it doesn't matter, because it acts as any of the 5 colors or any of the 9 numbers. However, the one sort of weird thing with it is keep in mind the rare card ignores it, but all of the other cards that are played, if they're a number card, still has to follow the common and field card rules. So what I mean by that is the cave is still descending. So we've played an 8, then a 5, there's now a rare. So the next card that could be played would be a 3, because the rare card essentially is acting as a 4 in this case. If you wanted to play the next possible lowest, you could still play a 2 or a 1 if you wanted, because that still goes lower. But if you were to play a number card in this spot, it would essentially be a 4 as the next possible lowest number, because 4 would be descending from 5. So this rare can be treated as a 4, a 3, a 2, or a 1 essentially. Now rare cards can still be placed next to rare cards though. So if I put another rare card here, that's fine. Again, it's acting as any color or of those numbers. The next card, if you count from there, would be 5, 4, 3, so this would have to be a 2 or a 1. Additionally, the extra special rule with the mountain and the cave, whenever there is a 1 or a 9, as you saw me do earlier, you can place as many rare cards after a 9 in the mountain row and after a 1 in the cave row. I also want to go over the 2 color cards. These will appear in the Sea Eternal decks, and these cards have 2 colors. When you play them to the field, you get to rotate it based on the orientation that you want, because the colors that's on the side dictates which color is actually adjacent to something else. So in this case, yellow is on this side and blue is on this side. So the next card here can't be a blue because that would be adjacent to each other, but you could put a yellow there, that's still fine. Now, once a card is placed on the field, it can no longer be rotated. So the moment you play it, you must decide which way you want it to be, and then it has to stay like that for the rest of the time. And then lastly, just to go over, the 5th color does show up as purple. These will appear in the Be Eternal decks. This is just a 5th color that's included in the game. You don't start with them since the 4 starting colors are red, blue, yellow, and green, but you will introduce a 5th color throughout the game. So now let's go over the ability cards. Let's talk about the 3rd and final action you can take on your turn, and that is simply to give a card to your teammate. So all you have to do is take one of these 3 hearts, as long as it's on the left side, and slide it over to the right. And you can take any one of the 3 cards that are in your hand and give it to another player. You'll do it face down so the other players don't see what you're giving to them. Once you spend all 3, you can no longer take that action. Otherwise, players will keep taking turns in clockwise order until you either collect 4 of the 6 stars and win, or lose by not being able to complete an action on your turn, or drawing the game over card from the river bonus area. Each player has 2 communication discs that they will use throughout the game. The way these discs work are pretty willy-nilly. You get to use these at any time. There's no waiting for your turn, there's no limitation, there's no number of uses. It's not like once you place it, you then have to wait until another turn. It's literally use them as openly and as willingly as you want to use them throughout the entire game. But you still have to limit it to placing it on the board and only using your color and placing them how you want. Otherwise, that's everything you need to know to play Eternal decks. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below and I'll get to them as soon as I can. Thanks so much for watching.